Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Everyday Excellence. I'm your host, Todd Baldwin, and today I'm joined by Mitch Smedley, owner of Trade Winds Consulting and co owner of Smedley Plumbing in the Kansas City area. Mitch started Smedley Plumbing in 2020, and just over 5 years later, sold 90% of the company while staying involved as a 10% owner. Today, he helps other trade business owners through Trade Winds Consulting, where he focuses on helping owners launch, grow, and build healthier companies. Mitch, how you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Good, man. I appreciate you being on here. Before we get into plumbing, consulting, and business growth, all that fun stuff, I have to start with Kansas City because you're a Chiefs season ticket holder, right?
Yep,
So go
yep.
Chiefs. Mahomes
Yeah.
just signed a big deal. I think
Yeah,
he's
I know, 504,000,000. It's kind of unheard of, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it just goes up and up. It's crazy how much these guys make, but I would say he's worth it. My quarterback, Dak Prescott, I don't think he's worth 60 million a year. But anyway, that's a different story for a different day.
Right.
So, Mitch, before we dive in, and for all our listeners who have not heard of you before, tell us what all you do and who you serve.
Yeah, so, I've been a plumber my entire life, 25, 26 years as a plumber, and, started my own plumbing company back in 2020, and it took off pretty well and grew to a nice, undeniable size in our marketplace, and so, we did a whole lot of fun stuff with that plumbing company, and I ended up, as you mentioned earlier, I ended up selling it in September of last year, selling most of it anyway. And the guys that I sold, I did not sell out to private equity or anything like that. It's a local group of entrepreneurs that buy local businesses here in the Kansas City area. And so I ended up liking the guys so well that the original plan was to sell all the company. And I said, "Hey, I like you guys. How about I stay on as a percentage of owner?" And they said, "Okay." And so ended up, reworking the deal to stay on as a percentage of owner. But before I sold our company, I realized the plumbing company that I started had taken off to a decent level of success fairly early. Felt like there's plenty of people around the world that need this information for how we were able to do what we did. And so we started a podcast called The Void. And The Void took off pretty well. We've got it set up to where we've got like 9 core episodes where we give a lot of the meat and potatoes and rules for how to do it. And then ever since then, we're, I don't know, 250 episodes in or something like that. But ever since then, it's just, kind of current events with how to intermingle that with business and current things that are going on and how that affects business and everything else, always reverting back to the lessons that we teach in those 9 core episodes. That podcast, we were getting so much questions from listeners that we decided, okay, we've got to start, like, we can't do this, we can't keep doing this for free. And so we created Trade Winds Consulting, which is a coaching and mentorship program for any trades based business out there, where we will work with you to bring your business into existence, or we will also stay on with you and help get your business off the ground into a very healthy level. So typically clients that are coming to us are under 1 million in revenue per year. And then it's our goal to get them to 3 to 5 million a year in revenue. And if they want to stick with us after that, that's great, and we're more than capable of running with them after that. But just kind of our niche is to take the guys from sub 1 million and get them to 3 to 5.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I love the fact that you're helping out other business owners, and it's. I know we talked about your YouTube channel on the plumbing side as a big subscription
Yeah.
number. So you've done a lot of things. You've grown a plumbing business, grown this content channel through YouTube. But let's. I want to dive into all of that, but let's take a step back because when I talked to you earlier, one of the things I love is hearing about the journey, right? Your entrepreneurial journey. So I'm just curious, what made you decide to start the plumbing company in the first place?
Um, so after a long time career as a plumber, um, I very quickly found myself in like leadership roles and management roles and everything else. And so eventually it just the process goes, like, as you keep trying to grow and develop, like, you run out of places to go in a company. The only other place is to own the company. And so Unfortunately, I was kind of a victim of a lot of, I don't want to say mental abuse, but you've got owners that they have really good guys that they don't want to see go anywhere, and so they start kind of lying to their people. And they're like, "Oh, you don't ever wanna own a company. It's so stressful. I've almost lost everything, and you don't want these headaches," right? But then they get in their Corvette, and they go drive to their lake house, and they spend the weekend with their family on their nice boat, and it's like, "Hey, that life does look pretty nice," right? And so, eventually, I kind of overcame a lot of like, I believed them when they said, "You don't want this. This is too stressful," and all this. And the other thing was too, that most business owners were unhappily married or divorced, and I didn't want to risk that. And so it took me a while to muster up the courage to be able to pull things off. But January of 2020, I decided we're going to do this, and so we started putting plans in place to open our doors August 1st of 2020. And so from the day we committed to open the company, January of 2020, COVID was a word, but it wasn't what it would become.
Sure.
And so then COVID came on and did its thing, and my wife was like, "Are you sure you wanna walk o" like, "Now seems like a really rough time to start a business." And I'm like, "Yeah, we made the commitment, we're following through, we're doing it." And so, opened our doors August 1st and never looked back.
Yeah, when life events happen like that and you've already committed, you just, it's too late a lot of times. You gotta go, and then it's just a matter of fighting survival. I'm not sure if it was you or another one of my guests, but similar experience with me. I started my first business. Um, our first day of training was supposed to be September 12th of 2001, and so
Yeah,
we all know what happened on September 11th of 2001, and I thought, "What a horrible time to, start a business," but we were already committed, had everything set up and money spent, team ready to roll, so we
yeah.
just dove in, but, yeah, no, I mean, it's,
Ironically, September 11th, 2001 was my first day ever as a plumber.
was it really? Okay,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah,
I have this picture behind me of the World Trade Center buildings. I keep it up because, I bought that probably 2 weeks after the attack, and, there was a store going out of business and had that print, so I've had that hanging in my office, ever since, so it's just a little bit of a reminder of that day and so forth.
yeah.
So let me ask you this, because it's you started the business, basically 5 years later, you sell the business. When you look back at that timeline, Mitch, does it feel like it was fast? Did it feel like you were just grinding every step of the way, or did it feel not that hard?
It's funny you say that. My business partner in trade winds and I were talking about this just this morning. The more I'm removed from the plumbing company, the more I realize just how consumed I was by the company, but also just how hard I was working in the company. Um, and by no means am I retired. I'm not even close to that. But I would liken it to somebody who's newly retired, and it takes them like 6 to 9 months to just figure out how to be retired, right? They don't know what this different style of life is like. And so,
Sure.
um, yeah, it was 24/7, 365. I mean, from the moment I woke up to the moment I slept, um, everything was about the business. And we had to even incorporate our personal lives into the business. So like I would go to the gym. I'm really religious about going to the gym every day. And so I'd go to the gym, but I'm not going to the gym and like checking out. Like I'm going to the gym and I'm still fielding calls from our guys in the field, and I'm still fielding customer service issues. And in between sets, I'm sending out emails and making social media posts and all of that stuff. And like my wife and I started a tradition that still carries on to this day where Wednesday night's date night, no exceptions. And we had to do that because that was the only time we could carve out for us.
Sure.
Every other night of the week was one of the businesses, so, yeah.
Yeah, it does consume you, and, I remember my dad telling me, 'cause I was a sales manager, I had a big team beforehand and all that jazz, but when I started a business, he was like, "You're gonna, you're just gonna wake up in the middle of the night," because he was a business owner. It's gonna happen a lot. You're just gonna, like, wake up. You're not gonna be able to go back to sleep, and I didn't experience that, when I was working for a company, and even though I was responsible for a lot of revenue and had big sales team, it's just different, and I still have that today. Last night, I was up for 2 hours in the middle of the night. It doesn't happen as much now, but I'm 20 plus years into being an business owner, and it still happens, so, I can relate to you, and, it's hard to unplug and turn it off. I've gotten a lot better, but, love the date night. Wife and I are going out tonight, a little date night, so funny you mentioned that.
Yeah,
Uh, kind of a Thursday thing we like to do. So, tell me this, what are some of the early mistakes that shaped the way you operate today?
man. I'll start off by saying I'm appreciative for all of them. There's none of them that I regret necessarily. Um, the first giant mistake I made, we were about 18 months into business, maybe not even that, 16, 15 months into business. And I realized that so I had my one van and I knew I was going to grow, but when you start a business, you can't go get loans because you're now according to banks yourself like you're unemployed
Yeah,
even
isn't
though
that
you're
funny? Yep,
self-employed, right?
yep.
And so I knew that as I was gonna grow, I was gonna have to pay cash for vans. And as COVID, we were 9, 10 months into COVID, and that's when the vehicle pricing started getting a little sketchy. And so, I started looking all over the nation for cheap vans, like slightly used, and, I was finding them for like 35,000 bucks. And so I'd pay cash for them, and I flew to Cleveland to buy one, ended up finding one of them, fairly close to me. But, um, um, as I'm buying these vans and paying cash for these vans, they're sitting in my driveway and I've got no plumbers to run them yet. And finally, I get the plumbers on board to run the vans. And very quickly, as soon as they came on board, I realized I have the wrong vans. They're too small. I was
No,
using Ford Transits that were medium length, medium roof, and we needed extended length, high roof. And so, in order for the guys to keep a water heater on their truck, they weren't able to have enough tools on the truck. And so the guys were actually removing the water heater from the truck and putting tools like tool shelving in the water heater compartment. And it just wasn't a good setup. And so um, I had to go out and buy new vans. Well, by this time, COVID pricing had really reared its head. The microchip shortage was going on.
yep.
Vans were very, very hard to find. So I bought all 3 vans for on average 35,000 apiece. I had to sell all 3 of those and the replacement vans were 72,000 apiece.
My goodness.
And so that was about a quarter million dollar mistake because the other vans were paid for,
Sure.
right? And so it ended up being about a quarter million dollar mistake to buy 3 vans at 72,000 apiece and all the taxes and licensing and titling. And then because COVID pricing had taken effect, I was able to sell the 3 vans that I had for more than I paid for them. Well, that caused a taxable event that I had to pay capital gains tax on these vans that I sold. And it was like, "Oh my gosh, this was just a nightmare." But
That's
um
that's crazy. I was thinking when he sold them for more, I was like, "Hey, that doesn't happen often with vehicles,
yeah,
unless it's, some special car," but then now you got a tax event. So,
yeah.
yeah, the joys of owning a business, right?
Right, right. And
Like
we've had some other mistakes. I've made some bad hires. My first hire, which I don't even really I mean, he was never registered as an employee within the company, but, my first hire was, he called in sick on day 1. He worked day 2 and day 3 and called in sick on day 4, and I'm like, "All right, I'm not gonna even gonna let you see day 5."
yeah,
And when you only work 2 days for me, that's like subcontractor work, so I didn't even bring him on as an employee
sure.
technically. So,
Yeah, another joy of ownership, right? Especially in the early days, just trying to find good people, right? So, well, you weathered that because I mean, I don't to grow and sell in 5 years. I don't hear a lot of. Typically in the trades business, they're usually around for a while, really building that business up. What I find interesting though is that you decided to make an exit. Were you looking, or was it just something? I mean, was that kind of the plan, or did these
no,
guys
so
approach you, or
yeah, it was kind of a catch-22. Like my life's motto is I wanna make a big impact on as many people as possible. And every day, every week, every month, every year, it's like I slowly learn how to make the impact deeper for the people, but also make an impact on more people. And so, um, when I was managing other plumbing companies, I could have an impact on the team and our customers. But then I realized, okay, if I start my own company, I can have a bigger impact on more people. And so we did that, and then once that took off, I realized, okay, I can even have a bigger impact if I share with others how we started this company, and so that was the podcast. And then we could have a deeper impact if we started the coaching company, because now we can, like, full on engage with these people and share screens and teach and coach and mentor and watch their business actually grow. And so the trades mentorship program was really the driver to sell the plumbing company, because with trade wins, I can have the biggest impact and the deepest impact with the most people. And so it was like, okay, I can do that, but in order to do that, I'm going to need to figure out how to get more time. And so selling the plumbing company was almost a necessity just so I could focus more on trade wins. And then once I fell in love with the guys that were buying the company, I'm like, okay, they, up until the group that came and actually bought it, selling the company was like it was like get this the plumbing company almost became a burden, which is a weird position to be in because you built this thing, you love it, it's doing great. How in the world is this thing a burden? But then, the ownership group that comes in and buys it, they really care about the company. They don't want to strip it. They don't want to change anything. They just want to keep business as usual and grow off of what we already had. And so it's like, all right, well, now this is actually really cool because they can buy it. I can stay on and basically advise them just like I'm advising other businesses. And so now I kind of get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, it's you wanted more time to give back, I think, if I heard that kind of at a high level, and the solution was, "I need to sell this business, it's kinda become a burden even though it's doing well," right?
Yeah.
Well, in my sense that it's profitable, making money, you've got operators. It's interesting, it's a good problem to have, I would say, yeah. So did you list the business for sale, or did these guys, and that's how they found you, or
Yeah.
did you
We
fi
had it listed with a brokerage.
Okay,
And hindsight 2020, I don't know if I'd list it with a brokerage again. Um, a brokerage is kind of like a real estate agent,
yeah,
only a brokerage takes a lot healthier percentage of a business than a real estate agent does.
yep.
And so, that became a thing.
What's the normal percentage for a broker in your experience?
About 10%.
10%. Okay, that's the number I had in my head. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. And so, a real estate agent's going to take 3.5 on a buyer's agent, 3.5 on a seller's agent. So you're about
Sure.
7 at max. And
Yeah.
so 10 for a business is kind of hard, right?
Yep.
Especially you put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into a business. And so, um, yeah, we had it listed with a brokerage and we ended up getting kind of creative with the deal too, because I was at one number, these people were at another number. And we ended up restructuring the deal instead of an asset sale, we did a stock sale. And so that allowed the number to stay the same, but the tax differences between an asset sale and a stock sale allowed me to pocket a little bit more money. So that was kind of neat. Um, yeah, had it listed with a broker for probably 6 to 9 months. We never really messed with the price much because the business at the basically the business's performance kept getting better. And so normally when you would like drop a price is because the value wasn't there. Well, our value actually kept getting better because the EBITDA was better the longer it was for sale. And so we were able to keep the same price there. It was just a better value when we sold it than when we listed it.
Yeah, because if it's listed for 6, 9 months and you continue to grow, right,
Yeah.
the value should increase with it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, for our listeners, if there's one thing you could say that would be helpful, or maybe let me phrase it this way. What did you learn about the selling process that other business owners should know?
Um, well, I've only ever sold the one business, so I can't really say like this is all the experience I have is just the one. Now, I've been a part of other businesses selling. I've been employed at businesses that have gone through sales and things like that. And as much as I can glean from everything, the one thing I would recommend to anybody is never sell under an earnout. And what an earnout would be is the business needs to continue to perform at certain levels for
Sure.
you to get bonuses after the sale. And I would never do that because typically what happens, I watched another company sell to private equity and lose on an earnout because the private equity company comes in and they clamp down on your operational ability to perform at the level they want you to perform at. And so what during the sale, it's all this, oh yeah, you can just keep doing what you're doing and you're going to make tons of money. But then a year after they bought you, 2 years after they bought you, typically earnouts are 3 and 5 years. A year or two after they've bought you, they come in and they say, we don't want you marketing this much. We need to slow down marketing. We need to cut down your staff or whatever. And they're basically chopping your legs out from under you to be able to achieve the earnout. And they do this on purpose. It's a sneaky move that they do to try to keep from ever having to pay that earnout. And so I would never recommend somebody sell under an earnout. Um, and you know, be willing to sell the business and flat walk away from it. There's a lot of businesses that sell and the owner still has an emotional attachment to the business after they ink the paper. And I mean, it'll put them into a state of depression, worrying about what somebody else is doing with the business after they sell. And so, um, I thankfully, my dad, sold his business about 9 months before I sold mine, and so I got to watch I knew to look out for this, and so I got to watch my dad kinda go through that, and I got to work with him a little bit with that. He knew I was selling mine, and so I was able to say, "Hey, dad, when I sell mine, I'm not doing that. When I sell mine, it's their problem. It's their thing. It's their if they grow it, great. If they tank it, great. If they serve the customers well, great. If they give the customers horrible service, I mean, it stinks, but it's not mine anymore."
Sure.
That's like selling a car and then worrying that somebody did like a burnout all the way down the street in your precious baby. It's not yours
Yeah,
anymore. They're gonna
not yours. You
they're
gotta
gonna do
let
what
it
they
go.
want.
I'm curious, so I wanna talk about trade winds. I've got another question about the plumbing side because you
Yeah.
I think it'd be helpful, for our listeners. It involves around marketing, which I love to talk about marketing because like I told you, I'm a digital marketer, have an agency. We work with home service businesses around the country. Our agency's Everyday Media Group. But you mentioned that, um, you have 10%. You're basically out for the most part, then they ask you to come back in and be a little bit more hands-on, I think because they were seeing some slippage in revenue. But you said one of the biggest things you think that hurt is they changed the marketing company. You had a marketing company that you felt like was doing really well, generating good leads, helping the business grow, becoming a partner, and then one of the new owners had a marketing company, had never run a home service business. So talk a little bit about that, and how important marketing is, and then, just when you find that right, marketing company, 'cause there's a lot of bad agencies out there, how important it is to hang on to them and keep working with them.
Yeah, so with marketing, there's no secret sauce, I'll say that, right?
I love
Um,
that. I love that. Can you
we
repeat that? No, I'm joking.
Yeah, there's absolutely no secret sauce. We found a little a little niche in our marketing venture early on, about 18 months, 24 months into business. Um, I guess it was about 18 months into business. It was the same time I was having to buy new vans. Um, we decided to start the podcast and the YouTube channel. And the podcast was for the trade winds, but the YouTube channel was for the plumbing company. And, I don't know why. I can't tell you, like, the methodology as to why I thought this, but I just felt that video content was gonna help the plumbing company grow. And, not only directly in our service area, but I thought video content would help create a national brand. If I ever wanted to add multiple locations, the video content would help with that and all this stuff. And so I hired a videographer. And This did not make business sense at all to do this. To this day, I have still not made enough money on YouTube to pay for even 1 year's salary of the videographer. But we hired a videographer. He was mine 24/7, 365. Lack of a better term, if you've ever seen an influencer out in the public and they've got a video guy walking around them, that was me.
Yeah, for sure.
And a lot of people think it's, oh, he's too popular. He's got this thing. No, I was paying for it, but it was for a purpose. And so we started making all these YouTube videos and we were learning YouTube and learning how to figure out how to go well on YouTube. Took us 9 months to get our first 1,000 subscribers. And now we're sitting at about 28,000 subscribers. And we haven't put a full length video on YouTube in 2 years.
Wow.
And so we've done some short stuff, but nothing full length. But essentially, we put a large focus on YouTube, and then we were able to extract from the larger videos on YouTube and create tons of social media content. So we were a video-based marketed company. And I worked with a couple of other marketing agencies and nothing really worked. I found a local agency here in Kansas City, goes by the name of Moss Marketing. They were phenomenal. They basically do video-based social media content for companies. Well, we already had so much content out there and so much presence and so much awareness around our videos that the relationship just intermingled really, really well, and it worked. And we saw no increase in leads, but we saw our average ticket price go up. And so what that meant was the marketing agency was getting our existing video content plus the video content they were shooting for us in front of the right people that were willing to spend more money. And so it worked really, really well. And if you can make more money without serving more customers, who wouldn't take that offer? That's a great offer.
Sure.
So that's what we did.
Yeah,
And
increase that average per ticket revenue is huge.
yeah, yeah, I mean, and we're not talking a small amount. This wasn't like 20 to 40 or $50. It was a $400 average ticket increase 30 days after we brought on this new agency. And we changed nothing else. No new sales guys, no new products, nothing. Just overall increase in sales.
So their specialty was video marketing, YouTube. What about the other side of Google? Because Google owns YouTube.
Yeah.
Were they also running, like, paid ads, local service ads for you, doing your
Yeah, yeah.
SEO?
So, believe it or not, their specialty was actually video marketing on Meta platforms,
Meta,
Facebook,
okay.
Instagram, a little bit of TikTok, but obviously they do YouTube and they do some Google PPC and stuff like that. They're a good agency, and so um most good agencies won't charge you to do anything with Google LSA because it's so simple to run. They'll weigh in and they'll give you advice because you're already paying them for all the other things, but they don't have a fee for LSA. But they did come to us and they say, hey, your Google LSA can perform a little better if we do a little bit of PPC. And so we were doing just a little bit of pay per click with them, nothing huge. We're not even breaking $1,000 a month in pay per click, just enough to help substantiate LSA. But it was really Meta ads and Meta videos that were doing really, really well.
Meta.
And, Facebook and Instagram, really.
Sure. Yeah, so
But
you're generating leads off of Facebook through this video content.
yeah, yeah, and if I had to be honest with you, they weren't even really they would boost some videos every now and then, or they would run some ads. The ads never I have never once so we've been in business now almost 6 years. I have never once had a Meta ad campaign pay off in a local home service company. And,
That's a good point. So when they were running helping all this boost of average ticket, and they're running your videos on Facebook and Instagram, but that's all organic, if I'm hearing you right, and a
it's
little bit of
organic.
pay
Yeah,
for
it's
boosting.
organic. The ads help more as a branding platform than a direct call to action, and it makes perfect sense if you think about it. And I'm not saying
100%.
Meta ads don't work. They don't work for a home service plumbing company. And the reason why is because I can't control when your toilet's gonna break.
Correct.
But what I can control is how much I'm in your view leading up to your toilet breaking, and so that and you may not even when your toilet breaks, you may not even remember me. But when you Google plumber near me, and I'm so prevalent on YouTube, and we've got Google LSA running and a small piece of Google PPC, and now we're running a ton of meta ads, it's impossible for you not to find us when you need us.
Correct.
And so now you search Google, "Oh, I need a plumber, my toilet broke. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot these guys. I see these guys all over the place. I'm calling them." And so they just call you directly. And it took years to figure out that you can't even really track this. Um, and unfortunately, so many marketing agencies, and you'll probably agree to this, so many marketing agencies are accidentally lying to you. And when I say that, what I mean is we have a lot of word of mouth referrals. And so let's say Mary is neighbors with Margaret, and Mary's toilet breaks. And so she goes over to Margaret and she was like, "Hey, you know any good plumbers? My toilet just broke. I need to call a plumber." And Margaret's like, "Oh my gosh, call Smedley, had them out. They're great." "Okay, cool. Do you got their number?" "I can't remember their number. Just Google them." Awesome. So now Mary goes to Google through any platform, LSA, PPC, Google business profile, doesn't matter. She searches Smedley Plumbing, finds us, calls us from one of those platforms. The marketing agency is going to attribute the lead to whatever platform she came in on. But when we as a plumbing company, we ask every customer, "How did you hear about us?" Mary's going to say, "Oh, my neighbor Margaret speaks really highly about you. I asked who she uses as a plumber. She said you." So we
Sure.
record that internally as a word of mouth referral, and so we just have to know, like, it when I say marketing agencies are accidentally lying to you, they're not it's purely accidental. They're not doing it on purpose. They're 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 making the assertion that that was an LSA lead or a PPC lead or a website lead or a whatever lead because that's the only information they have. So when you combine your internal source list with your marketing source list, and nobody has pride involved, and it's like, "Hey, I know my marketing agency is doing well, but I'm showing this lead as word of mouth. You're showing this lead as LSA." Cool. It took both.
It's a good point because you're showing up and you've got presence. That's why an organic presence is so important. When that referral does go looking for you, that they can find your Google business profile. If they type in your name, right, the profile should pop up if everything's done properly. They still may click on the website, right? But with conversion tracking, a lot of times that'll show us direct. Directs typically is what we say, hey, that was someone that already knew your name. But we have found a lot of how there's crossover too and a lot of gray. So
Yeah.
you're 100. I agree with everything you said there. It's only as accurate. It's not 100% accurate when we do conversion tracking, even though we can see direct Google ads, we can see LSA, we can see Facebook, we can see Chat GPT. But even now we're noticing some tracking issues with Chat GPT. But the cool thing is like you got it. You are as a business owner, you are tracking these leads as well. You are following them through the funnel. That is our biggest frustration with clients is that they don't look at their leads or they don't have anybody look at their leads and actually fall into the channel and actually tracking their own internal tracking compared to this tracking. And more importantly, what was the revenue on that call? And
Yeah.
also, was it a quality lead?
Well, and
Um,
a lot of CRMs, a lot of CRMs will have it as like a must fill feature when you're booking a new customer into your CRM. Like they'll have it as you must fill the lead source.
yeah,
And if I had any recommendation for any company out there, find out if your CRM has that. If they do, turn that on, and then get get a good list of lead sources in there. And,
yes,
to me, anything where I'm spending time, effort, energy, or money is a lead source. And so word of mouth is definitely a lead source, but Facebook referrals and Facebook ads are two totally different things, but they're both lead sources in our CRM. Facebook referral would be like, I went to the local community group and everybody said to use you guys.
sure,
And so it's a digital word of mouth referral. Um, but if we do like one of the popular things that they hit up home service businesses on is they want you to advertise on the back of like golf course scorecards. And we've never done it. I'm not against doing it. We've never done it, but if I did do it, I would find some way to track the effectiveness of that scorecard. I would do it one of two ways. One is there would be a undeniably great offer on the scorecard, and I would be and then so it would be like golf 20. That's 20% off. Like the coupon code would be golf 20.
Sure.
That's 20% off your purchase or whatever, something like that. But now I can go back and run a report of how many times that coupon was entered, and I can see how much business that brought in, right?
I
The
love it
other
because you're tracking everything. It's like music to my ears. It's a great
Yeah,
value to any business owner listening right now. You have to track all your what I call channels
yeah,
because you got
yeah,
to know
everything.
what the ROI is. Because I tell people all the time, look, if it's working, keep doing it.
Yeah,
'Cause I'm not trying to, as a marketer, digital marketer, I'm not trying to steal money from XYZ. If it's working, right? Because I have the best interest, should have the best interest of your client, right? So you mentioned something too that you were you hit the nail on the head was LSA and PPC and how they work together. And I think a lot of business owners don't realize that. Um, if it's done properly, they can help each other if they're working in unison. And you don't have to run a big PPC campaign to get that benefit. We typically like to make sure we have that PPC kind of ginning and then really start cranking on the LSA. You can go vice versa and do LSA first, but the key is to have them both running. And then you also mentioned LSA keeps changing. Google's now, vetting all the leads. Back in the day, you had to vet your leads and they'd credit you back. But yes, to anybody listening, business owner, that is a great source, but they both need to be running. And then obviously make sure either you have an agency or someone in your business that knows the ins and outs of Google, because Google will gladly take your money and give you bad traffic and not lose a wink of sleep, right?
exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So you also mentioned the management fee on LSA. We don't charge a different management fee for LSA. It's just a combination. Really, what's been one of our biggest hits the last few years is just really offering a package where it's just one set price and we just cover everything. And we don't charge you for this for LSA or Google ads, or now we're going to charge you for SEO. Really get a client that's really interesting, really serious about their marketing. We can put a package together because you're right. Everything works in unison. And I love
Well,
how, plumber
and
near me, you've got YouTube ads showing up. That's
right,
awesome.
yeah.
And there's
The
not a
the
lot of
one
YouTube ads showing up. So now you're like a blinking light, right?
Right, we're kind of everywhere they look.
Yeah.
One thing I will say on LSA, you have to remember LSA is not there to serve the contractor. LSA is to provide additional information to Google. Google is an information company. And so it's masked under a guarantee for the customer and leads for the contractor and all of that stuff. But ultimately Google they want info. And so if you're a contractor running LSA ads, make sure that your customer service representative, whoever's answering your phone, make sure that once a week they go back through all the LSA leads from last week and they give Google as much information as they ask for in every lead Google sent you. And you're not going to be able to give them information on leads you didn't book. But leads that you booked, even if they canceled, it doesn't matter. Give Google as much information as they can. Google wants name, address, phone number, email address, what was their problem, how much was their price. They want all this information. Give it to them. Happily give it to them.
Yeah, that's great info. Great info. I
There's a
agree.
lot
I
of
mean,
people that miss that step and they only get like 2 LSA leads a month.
yeah, we're having really good success with LSA right now. And a lot of that is right what you're saying. So I love I love talking to business owners that love marketing and have some passion. I can tell you have some passion for marketing. And I've always said we would much rather 100% work with someone like you, Mitch, versus a business owner, and they may even have 10 times the budget, but they don't have anybody on their end doing everything we're talking about, which is tracking these lead sources, doing the extra steps to make sure everything's working in unison.
Yes.
That's some great content. While you were talking, I had 4 or 5 video shorts going through my head about how to go back and repurpose that content. I was making notes for my
Yeah.
editor, like, hey, we've got good marketing stuff at this time in the video. Let's jump into trade winds because this is a really, I think, cool business of yours as well, right? So, what made you want to move from running your own plumbing business and then get into the coaching business and working with other trade owners?
Um, honestly, I don't know. I've always been the type to want to help and teach other people how to do things. And I made the decision when we started our plumbing company that we would never hire apprentices. Um, and that was not an easy decision to make because I am a teacher at heart. And so the reason why is it just didn't make business sense. A small young company, you go hire an apprentice. The apprentices are a cost to the company for the first 3 to 5 years. They do not benefit the company for the first 3 to 5 years. And unfortunately, at about years 2 to 4, an apprentice has a false sense of worth. And so an apprentice's worth is kind of on an exponential curve and then it flatlines. And so but their sense of worth is the other way. And so what you end up happening, what you end up having happen is an apprentice at about years 2 to 4, the company is deeply invested into teaching this apprentice. The apprentice has a low sense of loyalty because they don't really value how much the company's teaching them yet. And so the apprentice takes one foot out the door and they start looking at other offers. Well, other companies that aren't trying to recoup their significant investment in the employee, other companies throw a couple more bucks an hour at your apprentice and they steal your apprentice. Happens all the time. And so I was like, we're just going to skip all of that, 5 years of experience required or more. Well, that created a big hole in my heart, a big void for teaching people how to do things. So I was like, well, I'm going to create a podcast called The Void, where we're going to fill the void between being an employee and self-employed. And I'm going to teach people, I'm not going to teach apprentices how to plumb. I'm going to teach people how to take your skills and start a business.
I like that.
And
That's a very
so
that's
that
a
was the transition there.
yeah. No, I mean, I didn't mean to cut you out. That's unique analogy on apprentice too, right?
And
That
I can't
hey,
fault the apprentice for doing it. I mean, everyone's gotta
no,
go do what's gonna be best
sure.
for them, right? It's just a reality in business that you have to find a way to navigate, and my way of navigating it was we just won't hire apprentices.
Well, you described the trade winds of the business trade winds as helping someone bring a business into existence, right? Or
Yeah.
helping an existing company get to that 1 to 3 million range. Why is that stage so important?
There's a lot of business coaches out there that charge a lot of money and they're great, but they you really need to be at the 1 to 3 million level before you can afford them. And you really need to go through the grudge match that is getting to the 1 to 3 million before you even will value what they're offering you. They start talking about purchasing commercial properties and doing cost segregation studies and 401k or retirement for your employees. They start talking about the benefits of leasing versus purchasing. And meanwhile, you're running out of one truck
Yeah,
and you can't even see purchasing a commercial building in the future, right? And so we saw this opportunity of like, okay, let's be kind of the coach before the coach. Let's put in the legwork and let's get guys before they're even ready for a formal business coach.
sure.
And what it's ended up happening is we get these guys while they're small, they get into our ecosystem and they stay and they don't want to leave. And so we've got a lot of guys that have come in with us at one truck and now they're at 4, 5, 6, 7 trucks and they're rolling and and we just keep growing right with them.
That's cool. That's cool. You're willing to stay with them too, even if they hit certain benchmark levels in revenue. What's usually the first thing you have to fix when someone joins the group? Is there one or two things that jump out?
Yeah, usually the main thing is a lot of people say they want to grow, but they're lying to themselves. They don't want to relinquish control. They don't want to watch somebody else do something and fail. They don't want to risk somebody else upsetting one of their customers and all of that stuff. And so usually the first thing we have to fix is there's a big difference between being a great tradesman and being a great trades business owner. And you can totally be both. But right now, your trade skills are here, your business owner skills are here. We got to get these up. And the first way to do that is let your people make mistakes. You you learn from making mistakes.
Sure.
Whatever your trade is, if you're an HVAC guy, you let the smoke out of a few control boards to learn how to not install a control board, right? Every control board's got a little bit of smoke in it. You can let it out once and it'll never work after that. And we all learn the wrong way to install a control board or diagnose a control board. We learn because we let the smoke out of it. And so, like, you got to let your guys do that. We all learned the wrong way to talk to a customer by talking to them wrong. And then we stand back and look and say, okay, right? So we can provide a framework for our guys, but eventually you got to let the guy touch the hot stove once. Nobody's died from touching the hot stove. They got a burned finger, but they learned,
They learn
and
don't
they've
touch the
never
hot
touched
stove.
the hot stove ever again, right? And so eventually,
100%.
as business owners, we got to be the mom and dad that says, "Don't touch the hot stove; it's gonna hurt." But eventually, we got to let them touch it.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, it's interesting. Business owners say they wanna grow, but they're lying to themselves. I like that. Um, so tell us a little bit how Trade Winds is structured. You have a paid membership model, group coaching, and then you said you have higher levels, that include more one-on-one involvement. So how is it structured? So if I'm someone interesting, if a listener's interested in, hey, and reaching out and being a part of this group, how's it structured? What can they
Yes.
expect?
So we start our memberships start at $249 a month, and at $249 a month, you get access to everything.
Okay,
You get access to we've got an online video course that has a lot of just basics for how to get things rolling in your business. And if you're watching the online video course, like it's pretty rudimentary video. You could just listen to the audio and get everything you need. Um, but we've got a private Facebook group with just TradeWinds members in it. And so now you're in a private group with other like-minded business owners, trades business owners that are all trying to grow and excel and do the best things for them. And so it's a whole lot different than a lot of your other Facebook groups out there where you throw out something and you just get obliterated in the comments from people that are just looking to troll and laugh at your expense. We also do weekly group coaching calls where every Friday morning we get on a group Zoom call, and anybody that has a problem, bring it to the group and we're going to address it every Friday morning like clockwork. You can miss one, you can come to all of them, doesn't matter. We do 2 monthly lesson style coaching calls where we a lot of times we're bringing on an expert that is going to help a young trades business owner do a thing themselves at a mild capacity, and so we're going to teach you a little bit about accounting or a little bit about marketing or a little bit about leadership or something to that aspect, right? We have not brought on a relationship person, but we probably should soon because we know we all, as business owners, we need to learn about relationships, not only with ourselves, but with our employees and with our spouses.
sure.
And so, we will bring on an expert that can teach a lesson and help share some wisdom with the team. Usually, that expert will also kind of offer their services at the end of the call as well. Some of our members will sign up for their services at the end. And that kind of rounds out our crew level. We've got the crew, we've got the captain's level, and we've got the admiral's level. Tradewinds kind of follows a maritime theme. Our logo is a tall ship,
I
um,
gotcha.
and it's kinda funny because we're based out of Kansas City, we couldn't be further from an ocean, but we have a tall ship for a logo. Um, but next level up into trade winds is our captain's level. You get everything that you get with the base level, but you also get private two-on-one coaching with David and I. David's my business partner in trade winds. And so it's both of us and you on a coaching call once a month, 45 minutes. It's your call. Whatever issue you have in business, we're gonna talk about it. David and I have both been married about 20 years. And so we've both owned businesses. Like we've never been divorced. So like we can even help on the relationship side of things, the marriage side of things. We're not marriage counselors by no means, but we got a lot more marriage experience than a lot of marriage counselors out there do, right?
Yeah, yeah, no, congrats on the 20 plus years. Yeah,
Yeah.
my
And
wife
and
and I.
so, in other words, we can help everywhere where stress shows up in a business on these coaching calls. Our top level, we call it the Admiral's level. It's basically 2 coaching calls a month instead of 1. And so for somebody that's going through some rapid growth or somebody that momentarily needs a lot of attention, they can jump up to the top level. One of the neat things with trade wins, we're month to month, 0 contracts. And so we have guys that'll bump up to the top level for 2 months and then jump right back down to the captain's level. Or they'll jump up to the captain's level and then jump right back down to the crew level. Just kind of depends. So,
I like that. It gives people flexibility to, I guess, lean in if they need more help. And
yeah,
when they kind of stable the ship, hey, I still want y'all's input and coaching, but I want to drop down, save a little money.
yeah,
But they still happy. That's really cool to give that flexibility. We do a lot of that with, we don't do a lot of that, but we're very flexible with our clients. If they need help, we're here to help them. And, you know, life happens. Sometimes there's things out of their control and they got to save money. And
really,
we've
really what I
toggled
think it
down many
is
times.
it's more saving their sanity than the money.
Yeah.
In other words, if you're being coached at a level that you can't implement, you start to feel like a failure.
Yeah.
If the coaching is coming on faster than you can implement change and affect change and grow with the coaching, then you start to it starts to mess with your sanity a little bit. And so we don't really do it because we don't want the guys to lock in financially. It's more or less like lean in when you have the time, effort, and energy and the opportunity to lean in, but then feel free to lean back when the natural ebb of business is coming, and you just need to implement everything that we've worked on for the last few weeks or months, right? So that's kind of our reasoning for it, because we know that business is not linear.
Sure.
Business is like this. And so when it's surging, lean in. When it's retracting, you're probably going to lean in for the first part of the retract to understand, like, how do I handle the retraction? But then you wait for it to turn around. So,
It's funny you give the up and down. I use that a lot when I'm talking about marketing lead gen, right? In campaigns. Because you're gonna have some ups and downs. As long as kind of like the stock market, right? Over time we're going up. We're heading in the right direction. Mitch, I could talk to you all day, but I want to be respectful of your time. We've already gone a little bit long, so let's start to wind this thing down. One
yeah,
thing I've been asking my guests, kind of off topic from business, but just from I think it's cool to hear what people are listening to and interested in. So, in the world of podcasts, if you listen to podcasts, if you're a podcaster and like to listen to them, are there any out there that you would share or like to share, can share with our
yeah,
listeners?
yeah.
What are some of your go tos?
I listen to 2 podcasts religiously. One of them is Andy Frisella's Real AF podcast. I've listened to every single episode he's ever put out. He was actually an inspiration for us starting our podcast in trade winds. It's like he talks to people at such a high level. You know, he's probably a billionaire by now, but a lot of people don't want to take his stuff too seriously because they think he's speaking over their head. And they think, well, he's just saying that because he's so insanely wealthy. And it's like, yeah, there's a lot to glean from that. The other one that I listen to religiously is Joe Rogan. The main reason why is because I love how curious Rogan is.
Hmm.
And he can vehemently disagree with the guest on something, but still set differences aside and learn from a conversation with somebody that he would normally not want to hang out with. It's really interesting to watch him converse and still find value in conversations where normal people would just kind of fade away from that person.
Yeah, he's an interesting character for sure, and it's probably why he's had so much success growing that podcast. Plus, he was one of the earlier podcasters out there.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
one of the first.
he's skyrocketed, right? And I think it's just to have that real interest in different topics, what's going on in the world, and dive in, even though he might disagree or not have that same belief. I think he does a really good job still having those conversations. What about one-liners or motivational sayings or things of that nature? I'll give you one that I came across recently that I like. 'Cause I know I put you on the spot to give you a minute to think.
Yeah, you're good.
But I saw this one, I like it. It says, yeah, to pull it up. Forgive yourself for not knowing earlier what only time could teach you.
Yeah.
I thought that one was really cool. It kinda resonated with me. Is there
Yeah.
anything that you could share that
I so I kinda bounce between 2 of them. And one of them, I don't even know where I heard this, but it's just this kind of motto that I have sometimes of sometimes you have to work a little harder for your money. In other words, some jobs just some jobs are gonna be like that, right? That's kind of the cliche social media thing is you're gonna have that on these big jobs, right? Well, you're gonna have that financially in business.
Sure,
And so, don't get discouraged, especially if it's the first time you're doing something. Don't get discouraged if it takes a lot more effort than you initially thought. And then don't let that go make you go out and double your price the next time you do it. The first time you do anything, you suck at it. It's horrible. It's ugly. It barely comes together, but you did it. And then work on doing it better, making it look better, making it more efficient, getting it done in less time, or whatever the case may be. And then set your price for whatever that may be.
sure.
Um, the other is, better to remain silent and be thought of as an idiot than to open your mouth and remove all doubt. There's a lot of people that talk just to hear themselves talk
Sure.
or to feel important. And, um, I'm sure in the past I could be accused of that. But as I get older and as time goes on, I kinda learned that people will tell you exactly who they are if you just stay quiet and listen, and if you're too busy talking, you can probably miss a lot of good cues as to who somebody really is.
Yeah, I like that one. I'm gonna try to remember that one 'cause it's very true. It makes a lot of sense. One thing I was told in my early days of selling from one of my mentors who was my uncle, but he was, to me, the biggest, the most important I've been selling my whole life. So the most important part of a sales call is building trust, right? And the best
Yeah,
way to build trust is to ask questions about the prospect, right? And get them talking about themselves because the number one thing people love to talk about is themselves. When you just let them talk through simple questions and just shut up and let them go, it is amazing how much they like you all of a sudden. Like you are building trust instantaneously with this person and you're not saying a word. So, yeah, I think there's so much to be just value in just keeping your mouth shut and just letting your ears do the talking, right? So,
yeah,
cool stuff, Mitch. I can see why you've had so much success. Great stuff with the business. Like we talked on on the prep call, success and congrats on selling the business because I think it's from my own personal experience, it's easy to get deals started in a sales scenario, but I think it's very hard to get deals closed. So to go all the way through the process and actually get to the finish line is awesome. To be congrats on that. And congrats for taking a leap of faith 5 years ago, or
yeah,
I guess a little bit longer now, and starting your own business because my saying is everybody wants to be an entrepreneur until it's time to jump. And you had this huge life event called COVID. We all did, and we had never been through, and it didn't stop you. And a lot of people would have said, "Hey, man, we got to hit the brakes. It's never going to work." So that is some cool stuff. That is the reason why I started doing podcasting, just to hear those stories that inspire me, and I know our listeners will get some good value out of that as well. So, Mitch, tell our listeners how they can find you if they want to reach out and learn more about your consulting business, Trade Winds.
yeah. So, best place to find me is usually gonna be Facebook. Um, and it's just Mitch Smedley on Facebook. I've got the blue check on there. I pay for that just to make sure nobody spoofs my profile and tries to take advantage of my following. Pretty easy to find there. Also on Instagram, Mitch Smedley on Instagram. Um, and the Void podcast, you can just search like my name and the Void on any, your iTunes or your Spotify and find it there. Surprisingly enough, there's a lot of podcasts called The Void. We didn't know that until we started it. So that's why we have to tell people search my name in The Void. And then Trade Wins, you can just find us on Facebook. Just search up Trade Wins. That's like winning in the trades. Our website, our original website was tradewindsconsulting.com, but we got tired of explaining how to spell it. And so then we bought the domain winninginthetrades.com, and it was a lot easier just to let that roll off the tongue. So, um,
Okay.
but that lets you find a lot of the stuff there too. So
Awesome. Well, Mitch, man, thanks for being on the show. Of course, if there's any of our listeners who want to talk digital marketing, you can always find me at everydaymediagroup.com or LinkedIn, Todd Baldwin. Facebook as well. We've got all the social channels covered as well.
Yeah,
Mitch, great info, man. We definitely went long, but I have really enjoyed talking to you and diving in. So I can't thank you enough for being on the show.
you bet.
We'll talk soon. Thank you.